Hey there, welcome back to this podcast from the MS Trust, Multiple Sclerosis Breaking It Down. I'm Nick, I'm your host, and I'm joined by my co-host, Helena. How are you doing?
I'm good. We're here to help you make sense of MS. And we're excited because this episode today is a little bit different from our normal format. We are going to be talking a little bit about what it's like to be caring for someone with MS, and specifically about young carers. And young carers is a group of people that's quite often go unnoticed. But there's some research from Carers Trust, My Time Young Carers, and the Children's Society that suggests there's likely to be over 1 million of young carers in the UK. That's a massive amount of people.
That's loads, isn't it?
So I think they work out to it that there's about at least 2 young carers in school in each class, and some of them are as young as 5 years old. And being a young carer often means that missing out from school and missing out from playing with your friends and all these things. And a lot of the time people go through sort of being very misunderstood because they don't know what you're having to deal with at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And those numbers are shocking, aren't they, really, when you put it like that, 2 in every class. So to help us out, so to give us their story today, we're actually going to be joined by Oritsé Williams, who's known for being the founding member of the boy band JLS and also having a very successful solo career too. So we're going to be talking to Oritsé about his journey as a young carer with his mum who lives with MS.
And we had the pleasure of meeting up with Oritsé in Talyard Studios in London to hear his story.
Yes, I think without any further ado, Helena, let's jump into our interview.
All right, welcome back. We're joined by Oritsé Williams. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. No, we're really excited to get to talk to you because we don't often get to talk to pop stars, really. So it's new for us as well. So amazing. But today we just really want to kind of find out about your journey and your link to MS. So could you tell us about how you got involved with your caring responsibilities?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 12 years old, my mum was diagnosed with MS, progressive MS, unfortunately. And, from then on, my life it changed. I saw my mother's symptoms get worse over the years as time went by. And as her symptoms got worse, her needs got more, and which then required for myself and my younger siblings to have to step up and take much more of a caring responsibility, doing a lot of caring responsibilities that you would expect adults to do at a very young age as children.
Incredible, and to be such a young age and to be put into that situation is an incredible thing to have to go through, I'm sure. And you said about your siblings. How many siblings have you got, and sort of what did the caring sort of look like between you guys?
Yeah, so my mum's got 3 children: myself, my brother, and my younger sister, Temi and Naomi. Naomi's about 10 years apart from me. Myself and Temi are about 2 years apart, thereabouts. The caring responsibilities ultimately it started off being kind of the norm of house chores, cleaning, cooking, supporting wherever we could. I also kind of took this parental role as well. So I was taking care of my younger siblings, taking them to school, picking them up from school, taking them to after school activities as well, and making sure that at any point in time that we weren't home, that somebody was at home, to look after mum, or at least be there by mum's side. Going to school was always a very scary thing to do, because it's just the thought of mum, not having anyone there with her was frightening to us, because what we started to see was her having these what you call MS attacks, and she would have like crazy blackouts sometimes. And I remember a time where I literally had to get her out of the bath and get her into a safe place, because she literally had a MS attack while she was in the bathroom. And there's been different kind of circumstances and times where we had experienced her having, you know, these very scary episodes. You know, even being on the street, walking down the road, and suddenly mum can't walk, and she's losing all stability, and I'm having to be there by her side at the side of the road with my mum laying on the floor and calling an ambulance to come and support us. So we had experienced all of these things very, very, very young, but had tried our best to support. And that support, not only was it ordinary chores, but it started to turn into medical responsibilities. So administering injections and medication, and also then intimate care. So, you know, looking after her from a bathroom perspective and a showering perspective. So it was a lot for young kids, and I don't think we actually realised how much it was, you know, how much of a responsibility it was on us.
You must have noticed, like, when you saw your friends, I mean, because who would have normal lives, I suppose, and because that was what was normal for you. Yeah. It must have been quite a difference.
Yeah, it was a massive difference. It was the difference you could see was the fact that, for example, like when other kids were playing outside, I couldn't play outside because I had to be home with mum. So I tried to allow my brother and my sister to have as much of a childhood as they possibly could, and I sacrificed my own in order for them to be able to have that freedom and to try and allow them to be as normal kids as possible. So absolutely, you know, you don't see I didn't see the struggles, kids going through the same struggles that I went through, and I felt very much alone in that.
That must be really, really difficult. How was school? Was school understanding?
School was very, very difficult. So I started off, I mean, you know, I went to a school called Cardinal Vaughan. It's a very good boys' school, secondary school in London. And it was really difficult because at that time there wasn't really a massive awareness about young carers and the fact that there were kids who care, and that I was one of them. So I was very tired in school from doing all my caring responsibilities, falling asleep a lot in the class, late on homework, just tired all the time, always exhausted, always tired, and getting into trouble because of that. Unfortunately, there was one teacher that actually understood. Shout out Miss O'Connell. She was my English literature teacher, and she actually took me aside and was very, very empathetic and compassionate, and just said, Oritsé, like, some things I can notice that you're always tired, you're always exhausted, you know, upset at times. Talk to me, what's happening? And I explained to her what was going on at home, and that was super, super helpful for me to feel like somebody wanted to listen and understand. I didn't really know why, though it was helpful to me at the time. I didn't know it was something I needed, but it was clearly something I needed because I felt so misunderstood, and I didn't feel like I was like a bad kid or a naughty kid, but I started to get labelled as something that wasn't reflective of who I am, just because there was such a lack of understanding of my home scenario and the situation that was going on with our mum falling ill to MS.
Just listening to you, Oritsé, and I was just trying to you know, put myself in that situation, and just thinking, my goodness, you know, you're caring for your mum, you're, you know, helping out with your siblings, school's not going 100% well. You're labelled as this kid who's sort of bad or having problems or whatever it is. How did you deal with all of that emotionally and from a mental health point of view?
I struggled a lot. You know, I struggled a lot. In school, kids can be mean. So if they know that there's a certain trigger point, you know, they'll push that button. So if anyone, like, you know, in London, you call it like cuss your mum. Like if anyone cussed my mum, you know, immediately I'm ending up in altercations in school because it was a trigger point for me. I was very sensitive around, till today, to be honest. I'm still very sensitive around, you know, my mum. I just couldn't handle anyone disrespecting or insulting my mother. It really it wasn't good, and I didn't know how to deal with that emotion maturely at that time. It just was very, and I didn't understand why I was, because in my nature I'm very gentle, soft-hearted, patient, and have a high level of tolerance. So I didn't understand why I was so emotional. And because that wasn't really understood by the teachers and by the people that were responsible for me at school, they start to label me as like having issues and this, and it was just all very kind of generic. It was just very, it was very kind of like generic in terms of the way that they had kind of diagnosed my situation. And then it was really difficult for me, because I at about 15, 16 years old, I left secondary school in the UK and I went to school in Nigeria. And that was really tough, because then the responsibilities, I had to pass the responsibilities on to my younger brother and sister, which was very difficult to be away from my mum for those couple of years, and for the responsibility to now be on my brother and sister. I struggled with it, but Nigeria was, for me, it was something. It was a time in my life that I feel like I really needed. And then after that, coming back to the UK, my care and responsibilities went straight back into them, and then my music career kicked off. And then again, it was a struggle to maintain, that consistent care for my mother the way that I knew how to.
You said you felt quite protective of your mother. When you were in school and people were sort of asking, did you feel like you wanted to share what the home situation was like, or did you sort of not want to tell them what was going on?
I think because kids can be relentless and ruthless, and it felt so harsh to me. It actually made me close up more, and I think I've struggled with that ever since. I've struggled to open up and express how I feel when I'm really feeling sad or down, or a level of depression or vulnerability. And so the best way that I'm able to express that is through music. That's been my outlet, music and poetry. So when I'm in the studio, or when I'm at home writing songs or writing spoken word, or writing poetry, that's when you can understand what I'm feeling inside, because that literally is the extension of my soul. The music, and I don't want to sound cliche when I say it, but music really truly is the extension of my soul. If you want to know what Oritsé is feeling, then it's like, listen closely to what I'm writing at that time, or I'm singing at that time, because that's how I feel. That's how I feel. But saying it in words, in conversation, is something that I've had to I've had to learn more to do. And since I've been married, I've definitely learned that being in a marriage, communication is super important. And my wonderful wife, she's really helped encourage me to open my heart more and speak out verbally when I'm feeling something, and not hold it inside. And I think because as a young kid, I related strength I related strength to actually not saying anything. So I thought, if I don't say anything, then that's me being strong, essentially. So if I'm being strong in front of my siblings, strong in front of my mum, I'm being strong. But actually, what people appreciate is vulnerability and sensitivity. And I've only learnt that since being married to my wife. To be honest, I learnt that quite late. But I've started to learn that nonetheless.
Yeah, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who are listening to this can probably relate to that situation of wanting to sort of show that sort of strong upper lip and not wanting to give anything away. But what you were saying about actually being vulnerable, being able to talk about your situation is so important. And I was wondering if you had any kind of advice for anyone who's a young carer, who's maybe in your position, back, when you were a kid in school and not wanting to open up? Would you have any advice for those people who are going through that as
Absolutely. I've met a lot of young carers over the years, because as you know, I had actually executive produced my own documentary for Channel 4 called Britain's Youngest Carers. I had fronted a radio documentary called Kids Who Care for BBC World, and on my journeys I have met a lot of young carers, and I actually have seen, similar to what I was like in terms of character, in terms of not saying too much, like keeping stum, no, I'm okay, I'm good, because the person that I am caring for is the one that needs support, needs help. So don't focus on me, focus on them, right? We as young carers also need support. Or should I say, you as young carers also need support. Young carers also need support, and it's okay to actually allow yourself to be supported, because it has a massive impact on your mental health when you keep things inside and you're not able to have a way to be able to just have an outlet to be able to express yourself, lean on someone, talk to somebody, let people know how you're feeling. Because then if you let people know how you're feeling, they can more understand what you're going through and not take it in the wrong way. And I know that young carers are often misunderstood. And young carers are feel like they're the only ones that are going through what they're going through. It feels like a very lonely place being a young carer. And so I say to all the young carers out there that you don't have to go through it alone. And also there's so many outlets out there, MS Trust. Do you know what I mean? For one, where they can contact and be able to look for support and be pointed in the right direction to be supported. As well as, I think the great thing about social media now as well is that you can actually see people being a bit more visible and outspoken about, their own personal lives as well. So just know that, there's support out there, and don't be afraid to reach out and utilize that.
We often talk about when people, like myself, I have MS, but we say that the whole family lives with MS, because obviously they live with me, so they see all my symptoms and things. And you must felt like that when you, especially with your mum, when you really had to help a lot.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult seeing my mum's journey with multiple sclerosis, because at first it was, the MS attacks every now and again, but she was still on her feet, and then gradually she started to use crutches, and then it went into a walking frame, and then she ended up in a wheelchair. Now, during the most dramatic time of the digression of her health, I was going through the X Factor. So I was on the biggest talent show on TV, and I'm having to try and perform every night or every time that I'm meant to perform, focus on the performance and trying to get through the next stages, but feeling a huge amount of guilt that I'm not there to support my mum, and not realizing that this was going to be the biggest time of transition in her health. When I first entered the talent show, my mum was on crutches and she was there trying to help and support me. By the time I came out of the talent show, she was wheelchair bound. Super difficult to digest that. Crazy amount of guilt that I had to deal with.
Did you get any sort of support from the show, like kind of psychologists or anything like that would talk to you?
So early on in the show, they had seen that my mum was coming to the auditions on crutches, and so they became curious about what was going on. So they had actually separated me from the rest of the group. They asked me to have a conversation with them and just wanted to find out what was going on. So they actually showed a lot of care and concern for what was going on in my situation. And I told them, and I explained it to them. But as well, I was scared that I didn't want there to be this kind of, I don't want to play on any kind of sympathy card. I knew I was in the show, and I wanted to my talent to be the thing that shone. And I didn't want to draw attention to my personal life and my home situation. But then I think kind of as there was more and more conversations around the fact that my mum had MS, and then I was invited to speak on multiple sclerosis on, huge public platforms. And then that leading into me becoming more aware about young carers and how actually I can contribute, support and help their cause. It made me definitely want to speak up about it more. But I think what was really difficult is that a lot of people didn't know what MS was. So trying to explain to them what is multiple sclerosis, how it affects people all over the world. I just felt for me it was something that I had to do, because there were so many, and there were so many other organizations that had a lot of funds behind them to be able to speak about the things they were passionate about. And I just felt, well, if I've got a platform whereby I can sit on some TV shows and, anything I say will get out to millions of people just by one interview, or a couple of interviews, then actually I should be speaking about MS a lot more. And it's something that my mum is actually very proud about, and something that she had encouraged. She was like, Oritsé, if through my illness we can help other people, then that's what we should be doing. And that's my mum's heart. That's the purity of her heart. And I definitely got a lot of encouragement from that, myself and my younger siblings, to go out there and speak a lot more about multiple sclerosis. Recently, my younger sister, Naomi, her DJ's name is DJ Versatile. She does a radio show, and myself and my younger brother, we went on her radio show and we spoke as a family about our mum's condition and us being young carers and how that impacted each other. And again, having that conversation and communication with my siblings was such a valuable and beautiful thing for us all, because we had never really had these kind of conversations. So again, we all dealt with our mum's diagnosis with MS in different ways, and my younger sister being so much younger than us and being my mum's only girl, of course that's going to impact her in a way that is different to even the way myself and my brother was impacted. So conversation and communication is important, and teaching people about MS is so crucial, because then they will have a lot more understanding, and knowledge is power, and understanding and communication is a great thing, because then it's like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, MS, multiple sclerosis, I know what that is. Wow, I can't believe that you're being affected by that in your family, in your household. And then the empathy and the compassion then follows.
Did you know anything about MS before your mum was diagnosed?
I had no idea about MS before my mum was diagnosed. And to be honest, I was still struggling to understand it during the time that she was going through it. I had no idea. No one sat us down and explained to us, this is what MS is and this is what's going to happen. And I didn't know that my mum would find herself in a place where she wouldn't be able to walk. That for me was like shocking. Like it was horrific to come to that realization when it happened, because I just, in my mind, I thought, oh, maybe this is for a period, and maybe that at some point, she will be able to walk again. Hence, myself and my brother coming up with an idea when we were young kids of wanting to create a cure for our mum. My younger brother, Temi, he decided that he was going to be some sort of medical scientist, and I'll be a musician, and together we'll raise money and try and find and create a cure for our mum. And Temi did graduate in biomedical science, and I did become a musician. But as you know, when you're adults, that kind of childhood fairy tale it's life is a lot more tougher than you realize. And when you get to an adult, you're just like, okay, it's not as easy as just clicking your fingers, doing a bit of magic, and suddenly your mum's going to be better. Like people have been doing this research for many years now, and they continue to do the research, and things. They're definitely. We definitely see moments of hope more than ever in this day and age, as technology has accelerated and research has accelerated. But until you see your loved one completely well, it kind of feels meaningless, I guess. But there is great meaning to it. It's just how it feels, in your personal situation.
But your mum must feel so proud of the fact, because in some ways MS might have helped giving you that drive, both you and your brother, to become, fulfill your dreams.
Absolutely. If our mother wasn't diagnosed with MS, myself and my siblings wouldn't have the drive that we had today. And it's hard, isn't it? Because you're trying to find some sort of positive out of a very dark situation. But when I sit back, and I've thought about it a few times, and it's hard to digest, but I don't believe that any of my success would have happened if it wasn't for the drive and the determination to succeed in trying to better the environment for our mum when we knew that she was diagnosed with this condition. It just that fight, I don't think it would have been the same, because it felt like there was no choice but to succeed for us. Whereas if my mum wasn't diagnosed with MS, then myself and my younger brother and sister, we probably would be like, well, maybe a little bit more happy-go-lucky and just not as committed to wanting to improve our environment as we have been and as we were. So yeah, I attribute MS to all the success, but I would give up all my success, and I know my brother and my sister would, if it meant our mum being well. So, you're dealing with that difficult parallel.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's amazing that you were in that position, and actually, you've had that drive, and you and your brother actually got to those positions as well. But Oritsé, you were talking about having that drive early on for your music and having that sort of creative outlet. How important has that been for you in sort of managing your own position as a carer?
That's a great question. When I think about music, it makes me emotional, because for me it's been like therapy, and therapy in the true sense of the word. Music is a place that I've been able to go to allow my emotions to be just completely exposed. I feel safe with music. I allow myself to be vulnerable with music, and that's why I continue to do music, because that's the only way I know how to allow myself that complete freedom of being able to express the deepest, painful, as well as joyful, and everything in between and on the outside of it, feelings that I feel deep down inside. I've written songs about my mother's condition, and I've written songs about being a young carer. I've written songs about moments where we felt low, and I've written songs about moments where we feel love. So for me, like, music it's something that it's not a choice for me. I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to write songs. I have to sing. I have to just, get those feelings out. Otherwise they just kind of build up, and where do they go? Do you know what I mean? Where do they go otherwise? So yeah, like, music for me has always been that.
When did you find the outlet? Like, how old were you when you suddenly realized that this helps?
So when we were doing our care and responsibilities as kids, we used to sing around the house together. So, which was pretty crazy. It's like being in a household of the Jackson 5 almost. Obviously, weren't that as good as Jackson 5, but it was like being in a household of family just singing. So just to pass the time, like, you know, if we're washing dishes and we're passing them to each other, and we're singing, we're harmonizing. You know, the CD player is playing. At that time, it was CDs and cassettes. So we were just playing our favorite musicians and playing music that uplifted us and made us feel good and that we related to. So that's how early it was. So I would say that it was from when we were very, very small, but not having any kind of commercial ambition at that time. Not thinking that one day I'm going to be on a stage and performing to hundreds of thousands of people or whatever else, or on a TV show performing in front of millions of people. That wasn't even a thought in our mind. It was just an outlet and something that brought my family together in a time whereby you can really drown in your plight and in your sadness and in the reality of what was going on. It allowed us to just kind of not face the reality and almost, or at least go through it a lot easier. So that was probably the earliest time I can think about, you know, how music had an impact on me.
And when did you start to sort of put the pen to paper and actually getting those ideas down?
So writing, since I can remember, I've always loved writing. I've loved just creative writing, whatever it is. I was always attracted to storytelling, to dissecting meanings, and to quotes. I just love words. So from when I can remember, I had been writing and writing and writing. They may have not been songs, and if I go back now, they were probably terrible songs of what I did write when I did start writing. But it was just the feeling of writing. It was like when I put pen to paper, like that ink that would come out on the page just felt like the most beautiful outlet for me. And I didn't know why. Like, I didn't know why. I just did it. It wasn't like I thought, oh, you know what? Writing really makes me feel good. I didn't think about it like that. It was just something that I ended up doing. For example, my younger sister, she loved reading. So I would always be taking her to the library. And I guess in some ways that was probably her outlet, reading and stuff like that. And she actually started to play piano and do music production at a very, very young age. And my brother, his outlet was football. So he would go outside and, you know, he'd play football from morning to night, whatever. He would be out there playing football as much as possible, playing. And obviously now he has his own football academy, which is incredible. But yeah, for me, that's what it was. And I think we all have something, whatever that is, you know, and sometimes we haven't found it yet. So for a lot of young carers, sometimes I guess the struggle is, well, what do you do to in those moments? You know, what do they have? And I'm hoping that more and more we can encourage young carers to find something that is a beautiful outlet for them.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because if you're not super creative, if not everybody's great at writing. But it's nice to hear, you know, if you go out and play football, you kick around, or I go running myself. Amazing. And that's when I'm in my zone, and I feel like I couldn't. That's my therapy.
Amazing.
You know? So I think it's amazingly important to
that's
find your
wonderful.
thing. It's just have to find it first.
Exactly.
I was going to, just on that point, Oritsé, I was going to ask if there's carers who are listening to this who feel like, you know, maybe they've got their outlet, maybe they're looking for it, or they're not 100% sure what it is, but they just feel so much that they've got so much to do, whether that's, you know, working life, school, caring for their loved one. What would you say to them in terms of the importance of having that outlet and actually pushing forward with it as well?
I'd say to young carers that it's important to find your thing. Whatever that thing is, like, it's important to find your thing. But also you can find it through engaging with other young carers. There's a thing, I know the Children's Society, they run the Young Carers Festival, for example, which is a beautiful respite. And I actually went down there and I had done a songwriting and spoken word poetry session with the young carers at the festival a couple of years ago, which was wonderful. A lot of them didn't realize that writing would be something that would be a beautiful outlet for them. And we had written this beautiful poem together where we all threw, our different experiences, and they all threw their experiences of being young carers. They threw them at me and I just helped them arrange it into this beautiful poem that we had at the end. And a lot of the young carers came up to me and said, wow, that was the first time I ever wrote a poem. And they felt this sense of accomplishment. And it was, it was absolutely beautiful. And so I think sometimes if you're on your own, it's difficult to find it. But when you're able to try and find moments to engage with others, then maybe something might just come up. And also you don't have to be great at something. I was a terrible singer as a kid. Horrific, so bad.
No way.
Everyone don't believe it. I worked very hard at this voice for many, many years. I was terrible, absolutely terrible. But the one thing that being a young carer and seeing my mum go through MS day to day done for me is it gave me a resilience. It gave me a different kind of level of tolerance, resilience, and tenacity, whereby if I'd hear no, or you're not good enough, or it is not your time, you can't write the songs, you can't sing, you can't do this, you can't do that, which trust me, I heard, then it made me go, well, I'm still not going to give up, because my mum never gave up on even in her diagnosis, even though she had MS and progressive MS, which is a very aggressive type of the condition. She never gave up. She never gave up on her kids. She never gave up on herself. She never gave up on happiness. She never gave up on her family. So if my mother never gave up, why should I give up? What, because somebody's turned around and told me, you're not good enough? Or, no, I'm going to go back again and I'm going to keep going. So my mum is like, my mum's not really like someone who is, she's not like, aggressively like we got to go out, we got to do this type person. She's very a very gentle soul, but a very in fact no, sorry, correct, she's got an incredibly strong soul, and she's got this amazing resolve. Like through her condition, a lot of people used to say to us, your mum's never changed. I've never seen her get angry, get upset, get depressed. Oritsé, your mum is like superhuman. And it's true. Sometimes, I do wonder, like, even in her condition, she's always smiling, always laughing. She always says, Oritsé, there's people much worse than me. We've got to remember that. So, seeing that resolve, and I think a lot of families that have loved ones suffering with MS, I've seen that beautiful spirit in a lot of families, where they just pull together, no complaints, and they just keep on going. A friend of mine actually is Janice Winehouse, Amy Winehouse's mum. As you know, she's got an MS diagnosis. She reminds me so much of my mum. They're so alike. It's insane. And actually, when times that they had got together, fundraising events and stuff like that, it was so funny because they're just the same. Like, they were such gentle souls and so mature, and always feeling like, the other people that are worse. And seeing Janice Winehouse made me realize that, wow, like, it's not just my mum who has this beautiful character trait. There are other people that are suffering with MS that does. And obviously, in Janice's case, so upsetting. Not only has she had the diagnosis, but she lost her beloved, legendary daughter, who had such an incredible impact on the world through her music. And so she had been through all of these different things. And yet with the MS diagnosis, she still showed so much incredible strength. She still pulled through. She still had wears a smile on her face. She even called me, like, you know, not too long ago, just to see how I was, and made me feel guilty that I should have called her before she called me to see how she was, you know. So thinking about others. Imagine you've got this condition, yet you're still thinking about others. Absolutely beautiful. And I've seen the most beautiful people who are diagnosed with MS, and the way that they've dealt with their condition in such a selfless way.
When your mum sort of first experiencing symptoms, because we often hear people with MS, and I know I'm quite bad at it myself, that it's hard to ask for help.
Yeah.
So before it sort of turned into you having to care, was she good at asking for help if she was struggling?
My mum's terrible at asking for help. Absolutely terrible at asking for help. It's only now that, you know, anytime she calls and she needs help on something, she always starts off with, Oritsé, oh my goodness, you know, I'm always relying on you. I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm like, Mum, why are you telling me you're sorry? I'm your son. You know, I'm like, supporting and helping you is the most natural thing in the world. Like, you know, and I always, you know, we always have this back and forth. I kind of tell her off to say, Mum, stop saying sorry. Like, it's okay. Like, that's what we're here to do. And my brother and my sister do the same thing. They're like, Mum, stop it. Like, but she always goes, I've got the most amazing children in the world. I'm so blessed. I'm so lucky. You know, we took her across the world a year ago to surprise her brother in Canada, and that was a difficult journey because we didn't realize that traveling with a loved one that has a disability, how difficult it is. You know, multiple planes and different things. It was a lot. You know, and my mum has some incredible carers, like wonderful people that care for her now, like just the most, like literally angels on earth. And they were saying, your kids are taking you with no carers? And she said, yeah, that my kids have always been carers for me as kids, and they're refusing to have anybody come with me on this trip. But we're like, the three of us are here. The three of us have cared for our mum, so we don't need to have any carer because we're young and we're strong and we're and we know what to do. We're well equipped, and it was beautiful because we went across the world, and myself and my brother and my sister. It was a long time since we had, taken up that carer role in that way as a three of us, and we just made things. We just made things like. We made times that a lot of people would be like, oh my goodness, this is a lot, to just being just fun, Yeah. So even like when we were intimately caring for our mum, having to bathe her, get her ready, shower, all these things, we just put on some Bob Marley music because, she's Jamaican, she loved Bob Marley. And so just some music that she would, that would just be, and we'll be singing as we're doing all our care and responsibilities of washing and cleaning and and all those different things, and it would just be like making this because as a person that's being cared for, it's hard to maintain that level of dignity. Your kids are here looking after you in this way. Of course, you want to be, we're conscious that she wants to hold as much of her dignity as possible. So we just try to just make it, more of we're just family and we're all just chipping in and we're getting on with it. And it was one of the most amazing moments of my life. And I hope that it was of our mum's life, but it definitely, all the carers were like, your kids are just one of a kind, because we don't know anybody that would have done that without having support, sorry, they're saying they didn't know anybody that would do that without having support from the carers, and they couldn't believe that myself and my brother and sister, that we had taken our mum across the world and back, and it was just us. as her carers.
As a mum of, well, I got a preteen and a teenager. I try to sometimes get them to help around the house a bit more. I just wondered, because there will be a lot of people with MS listening to this who might need some more help. And you were saying about your mum kind of not wanting to ask for help.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of tips and tricks that you want to share of how a person with MS could actually ask their kids to help out with things without scaring them or without making them feel guilt-tripped into helping?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has a different way of communicating.
Yeah.
So I guess I can't essentially, pull out a blueprint of how to do that. But I think it's just about being honest and speaking from the heart. Just saying, look, I really need some help. I really need to be supported right now. Because who knows what life will bring for any of us. At some point in time, we're all going to need a level of support and help in different ways. So why is this any different? I think it's just about normalizing it as much as possible, and not making it a taboo or a thing of, oh my goodness, I need to ask them help now. No, just be like, I need help, I need support. And I'm sure that those people who are out there that have those kids that they're scared to ask for support would actually be more than willing and happy to help. And actually maybe that's something that they want to hear and feel. And so I'd encourage parents who are suffering with MS to definitely speak to their kids, and don't have that daunting feeling of, oh my goodness, this is going to be a burden on them, because that daunting feeling is unfair on you.
I like to think that asking for help will actually give them life skills that are better, because you must have, compared to your friends, you must have been on it with things that they didn't know how to do, like cooking and cleaning.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Things like that.
I mean, as kids, our maturity was leaps and bounds beyond our peers, just because of our care and responsibilities and everything we had to step up to the plate and do. So it definitely, being a young carer, it definitely gives you character. It's a very character building thing, and having to deal with the condition of multiple sclerosis and caring for somebody who's diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, honestly, it builds compassion, love, courage, inner fortitude, strength, empathy, and all of these beautiful qualities in a human being at a very young age. And I think the world needs more of those kind of human beings.
It's so powerful to hear your journey and your family's journey, and just some of those moments that you've talked about where you're singing Bob Marley together in the bath, and it is real sort of bonding experiences. I guess we could probably talk to you all day, Oritsé, about this. It's amazing hearing that whole journey that you've been on. But just to kind of finish up, did you have any sort of final things that you'd like to say to anyone who is a young carer out there? Any words of advice?
I would just say, look, it can be overwhelming being a young carer, and you can find yourself in a very lonely, dark place and live a lot of the time in your own thoughts. And I've said it before and I'll keep on saying it again. There will be people out there that are going through similar to what you're going through, maybe not the same, but have their own stories. And there will be people out there, and there are people out there that are there to want to have an understanding for you and be able to take some of that load off of your shoulders in whatever way that they can. And just talking about what you're going through is going to bring a sense of relief that you can't even begin to imagine until you do that. And the power of the Multiple Sclerosis Trust and all that you guys do, and being able to point people in the right directions and support people is incredible. And there are other organizations like Carers Trust that are there for young carers. Now, I'm mentioning all of these things, My Time Young Carers as well, incredible organization. I'm mentioning all of these places so that young carers can go, oh, I heard about MS Trust. I heard about my time young carers. I've heard about Carers Trust. Oh, there's places I can go to. Because the first instance, it is, well, where do I go? Well, who do I turn to? I've just given you a few very, very incredible organizations that you can turn to. And know that actually everything that you're doing as a young carer is only going to make you leaps and bounds and years ahead of your peers. You become an extraordinary human being by doing extraordinary things. And there's nothing more extraordinary than caring for someone who you love.
And find your outlet. I loved what you said about that.
And find your outlet, yeah, absolutely. Find your outlet. You don't have to be singing.
No.
And you don't even have to be, and even if it is singing, you don't even have to be good. Look at me, I weren't good.
Oh, yeah.
We'll make sure we link to all of those organisations in the show notes too, Oritsé. But for anyone who wants to keep up with you and what you're up to at the moment and your journey, where's the best place to find you online at the moment?
Yeah, well, I'm on IG, I'm on Instagram, like everybody else, Oritsé Music. My name is spelled Oritse Music, or TikTok. Yeah, we're on a TikTok these days. Oritsé Williams, so Oritse Williams. You can get at me. And on my platforms, I speak a lot about young carers and multiple sclerosis. So if you want to tune into any of those things, then that would be amazing. And and keep following the MS Trust, because what you guys are doing are absolutely incredible. And I'm proud to be an ambassador. I'm proud to be supporting the MS Trust in every way possible. And I want the whole world to know about MS Trust and the incredible work that you guys do.
Thank you so much. We're so happy that you're with us.
Thank you, Oritsé. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
A big thank you to Talyard Studios for letting us record this podcast with Oritsé. There was lots of organizations that were being mentioned in the recording, so we'll make sure that all of them are linked to in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are looking for some helpful resources, you can head over to our website. It's mstrust.org.uk. So on there we have an A to Z of MS. So if you go onto there and you look for carers in that section, you'll be able to see not only lots of our information, but also signposting to different organisations too that can support you. If you do have any questions about some of the things that we talked about today, or any aspect of life with MS, do give our helpline a call. It's free to use, and we're open Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m, apart from bank holidays, Helena. But obviously, if you do leave us a message, we will get back to you as soon as we can. So the number for the helpline is 0800 032 3839. Obviously, if you'd rather not talk on the phone, we do have an email service as well, so you can get in touch with our helpline team. That's ask@mstrust.org.uk.
And you can also get in touch with us over social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find this podcast on Spotify, YouTube Music, and Apple Podcast and Amazon Music. And the video is up on YouTube, so you can go and give us a follow or give us a review, maybe comment on this video. And we want to say again a big thank you to our ambassador Oritsé for taking part in this podcast. It was really exciting and interesting to hear his story. And we should actually mention, since last time we saw him, he has released a new single as well, so called Languages. So I think you should go and listen to that as well.